My name is Mufti Menk, and I welcome you to a place of peace, reflection, and healing. Today we are going to explore one of the most powerful gifts Allah has given us, yet one of the most neglected: silence. Silence protects relationships when words in anger could destroy them. Silence is a form of patience, teaching us discipline over the tongue and strength over the ego. Silence heals the heart, creating space for dhikr, Qur'an, and whispers of faith. Silence guards you from sin, reminding you that every word is recorded. Silence is wisdom, for often the best answer is found in restraint, and silence secures your hereafter, where every word will be weighed. Join me as we uncover how silence can transform your dunya and save your akhirah. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss a reminder that could change your life. Silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. Many people believe that speaking louder, speaking more, or proving themselves with words makes them stronger. But true strength does not lie in raising the voice. It lies in lowering it when your heart is burning inside. The ability to remain silent when your ego wants to fight back, when your pride wants to defend itself, when your anger wants to explode. This is not weakness. This is control, this is wisdom, and this is strength given by Allah to those who trust Him. Because silence is not about losing the battle, silence is about winning a greater war within yourself. When you hold back words that can harm, you protect your dignity and guard your soul. How many relationships are destroyed by a single word said in anger? How many friendships break down because of careless talk? How many marriages collapse because of the inability to stay silent in a heated moment? Once words escape your tongue, they cannot be taken back. They leave scars deeper than any sword. But silence has the power to shield you from regret. It saves you from apologies that cannot heal the wound, from explanations that cannot erase the damage. Silence keeps your honor intact even when others try to drag it down. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad said, "Whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent." This is not a call to weakness. This is a call to wisdom. Silence is not about avoiding truth. Silence is about choosing the right time, the right way, and the right purpose to speak. Many people regret their words, but very few regret their silence. When you are silent for the sake of Allah, that silence becomes an act of worship, an act of patience, and an act of strength. Think of the times you wanted to defend yourself when you were insulted, when lies were spread about you, when your honor was questioned. The easiest path is to fight back, to argue, to scream, to prove everyone wrong. But sometimes the most powerful response is silence, because Allah Himself becomes your defender. When you remain silent with dignity, you are declaring that your trust is not in the words of people, but in the justice of Allah, and His justice is always more powerful than any defense you could build for yourself. Silence also guards your soul. Every word shapes your heart. Words of anger fill your heart with fire. Words of arrogance fill it with pride. Words of gossip fill it with darkness. But silence purifies the heart. It allows your soul to breathe. It allows your spirit to rest. In silence, the heart remembers Allah. In silence, you hear your own conscience guiding you. In silence, you listen to the Qur'an, to the remembrance of Allah, and to the whispers of faith that calm your inner storms. When we look around us, we see a world filled with noise. Everyone wants to speak. Everyone wants to argue. Everyone wants to prove their opinion is right. But few want to listen. Few want to pause. Few want to reflect. Silence is the forgotten key to wisdom. It teaches you to listen more than you speak, to observe more than you judge, to understand more than you assume. Silence opens the door to humility because it reminds you that you do not need to prove yourself to anyone. Your worth is not in the number of words you speak, but in the weight of the words you choose to utter. Sometimes silence is stronger than words in dealing with those who seek to harm you. When someone insults you, your silence becomes a mirror that reflects their own bitterness. When someone provokes you, your silence disarms them. They expect rage, but your silence confuses them. They expect retaliation, but your silence humbles them. This is the wisdom Allah grants to His servants who choose patience over pride. But silence is not just for moments of conflict, it is also for moments of worship. Silence allows you to listen to the Qur'an with a clean heart. Silence allows you to focus in prayer without distraction. Silence allows you to feel the presence of Allah in your soul. The heart that is drowned in noise cannot taste the sweetness of dhikr, but the heart that embraces silence finds peace in every breath. When you remain silent at the right time, you are not running away. You are rising above. You are not being passive. You are being powerful in a way that does not need to be loud. Because silence teaches you to master yourself before trying to master others. And whoever learns to master his tongue has already mastered much of his faith. So do not let the world deceive you into thinking silence is weakness. Weakness is when you cannot control yourself. Weakness is when you let anger speak for you. Weakness is when you hurt others with words you cannot take back. Strength is when you could speak, but you choose not to. Strength is when you could argue, but you choose peace. Strength is when you could fight back, but you trust Allah to fight for you. That is the strength of silence, and in that silence lies dignity, patience, wisdom, and protection for your soul. Because silence is not emptiness, it is full of faith, full of trust, and full of light. May Allah grant us the wisdom to know when to remain silent and the strength to speak only what brings goodness. Silence brings you closer to Allah. Every moment you resist arguing, gossiping, or speaking in vain, your heart becomes purer and your connection with Allah becomes stronger. The tongue is one of the greatest blessings Allah has given us, yet it can also be the cause of our downfall. With it we can remember Allah, recite Qur'an, speak truth, and spread kindness. But with the same tongue, people backbite, slander, argue, lie, and sow division. Every time you choose silence instead of falling into these traps, you are protecting yourself from sins that weigh heavily on the scales on the day of judgment. Silence becomes a shield that preserves your faith and elevates your status with Allah. Think of the moments when people provoke you into an argument. You feel your ego urging you to respond, to prove yourself, to have the last word. But the one who chooses silence in that moment is the one who shows true strength. Because Allah is with the one who controls his anger. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The strong man is not the one who can wrestle others down, but the strong man is the one who controls himself when he is angry." And silence is one of the greatest acts of control. Instead of letting your tongue become the tool of your anger, you lock it with patience. You turn to Allah in your heart, asking Him for calmness and guidance. That silence connects you with your Creator more than words of rage ever could. Every time you resist gossip, you are protecting not only yourself, but also your brothers and sisters in Islam. Gossip is poison to the soul. It destroys trust, spreads hatred, and earns the displeasure of Allah. The Quran compares backbiting to eating the flesh of your dead brother, a reminder so powerful that it shakes the heart. But when you choose silence instead of repeating what you heard, when you refuse to contribute to the cycle of gossip, you are purifying your heart. You are proving to Allah that you value His command above the temptations of society. That silence is not emptiness, it is worship. It is an act of obedience that brings you closer to Him. And when you refrain from speaking in vain, you protect your time, your mind, and your heart from being wasted. Idle talk distracts the soul from remembrance of Allah. It fills the heart with heedlessness, with unnecessary noise, with desires that never end. But silence opens the door to reflection. It gives your heart room to think about the purpose of life, about the hereafter, about the blessings of Allah that surround you. Silence is not about losing words, it is about gaining clarity. It is about hearing the whispers of your conscience and the reminders of faith that guide you back to Allah. In silence, you also learn to listen. You listen to the Qur'an with a heart that is not distracted. You listen to the creation of Allah, the sound of rain, the flow of rivers, the call of the birds, all signs pointing you back to the greatness of your Lord. You listen to those in need, offering them not empty advice but sincere attention. Silence trains you to value the wisdom of listening more than the habit of speaking. And through listening, you learn lessons that bring you closer to Allah in ways that endless talking never could. Silence is a form of patience, and patience is one of the greatest keys to Jannah. The one who stays silent in moments of anger, in moments of temptation, in moments of provocation, is the one who is exercising sabr, and Allah promises that those who are patient will be rewarded without measure. Every time you hold your tongue for His sake, your patience is recorded and your closeness to Him grows. The Prophet taught us that the tongue is one of the main reasons people will enter the hellfire. Just a few careless words can ruin a life, break a heart, or destroy a reputation. But at the same time, a few words of dhikr, a few words of kindness, a few words of truth can raise a person to the highest ranks of Jannah. This is why silence is so powerful, because it teaches you to value your words. It trains you to only use them when they benefit, when they heal, when they bring you closer to Allah. The rest of the time, silence is safer, purer, and wiser. There is also a deep spiritual sweetness in silence. When you free your tongue from useless speech, you begin to fill it with remembrance of Allah. You say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. You send blessings upon the Prophet. You recite verses of the Qur'an. You make dua in the stillness of your heart. This transforms silence into something far greater than absence of words. It becomes presence with Allah. It becomes a state of being where your heart speaks louder than your tongue. The world around us constantly pushes us to speak, to argue, to debate, to prove ourselves. But the believer knows that silence for the sake of Allah is more valuable than winning arguments in front of people. Because in the end, it is not people we seek to please, it is Allah, and He knows what is in the hearts. He knows the battles you win in silence, the anger you swallow, the gossip you avoid, the arguments you walk away from. None of it is wasted, all of it is written. So let silence become your shield, your purifier, your reminder of Allah. Let it be the bridge that connects your heart to your Creator. And whenever your tongue wants to speak in vain, let your silence remind you that Allah is watching, that every word is recorded, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. May Allah grant us hearts that choose silence over sin and tongues that speak only truth, remembrance, and kindness. Silence protects relationships. Words once spoken cannot be taken back. They linger in the heart and echo in the mind long after the moment has passed. How many times have families been torn apart, marriages broken, or friendships ended because of words said in anger? A single harsh sentence can pierce deeper than a sword, leaving scars that never fade. Yet silence in those same moments of anger has the power to heal, to protect, and to preserve the bonds we hold most dear. When emotions rise and tempers flare, silence becomes a shield. In that moment, Your silence is not emptiness. It is love, it is wisdom, and it is patience. It is saying, I value this relationship more than I value proving myself right. That is strength, because it is easy to let anger dictate your words, but it takes faith to hold back for the sake of Allah and for the sake of those you love. The Prophet Muhammad said, whoever remains silent has been saved. This does not mean silence in every matter, but silence in those moments when speech can harm, when words can destroy. Silence is a choice, and it is one of the greatest acts of mercy you can show to those close to you. It is choosing not to hurt the one you care about, even when you feel hurt yourself. It is protecting them from pain, protecting yourself from regret, and protecting the relationship from damage that cannot be undone. Think of a husband and wife in a disagreement. Harsh words may come easily, accusations may form quickly, and anger may fuel every sentence. If both speak without restraint, the argument grows, the wound deepens, and the love weakens. But if even one chooses silence in that moment, the fire loses its strength. That silence becomes water, cooling the flames of anger. Later, when calmness returns, the discussion can continue with respect, with gentleness, and with love. Silence in anger saves marriages, protects children from heartbreak, and preserves the bond that Allah has blessed between husband and wife. Friendships too can be destroyed by careless words. One word spoken in jealousy, one insult disguised as a joke, one comment made in anger can end years of companionship. But silence in those moments is an act of loyalty. It is saying, I choose not to hurt this friend because I value them. True friends are not those who never disagree, but those who know when to remain silent to protect the bond between them. Silence allows space for forgiveness, for reflection, and for understanding. Family ties are among the most sacred in Islam. Allah has commanded us to uphold the bonds of kinship and warned us against cutting them. Yet how often are these ties severed because of arguments, insults, and unnecessary disputes? A word spoken in pride or anger can divide siblings, distance parents from children, and create years of bitterness. But silence has the power to stop that division before it begins. By holding back your tongue in a moment of rage, you are protecting a relationship that Allah Himself has ordered you to honor. Sometimes silence is the highest form of respect. When someone older speaks harshly, when a parent is angry, when an elder is upset, silence prevents you from saying something that could dishonor them. Even if you feel they are wrong, silence allows you to respond later with calmness and wisdom, instead of reacting in the heat of the moment. In this way, silence protects not just the relationship, but also your own dignity in the eyes of Allah. Silence also gives space for healing. When two people are angry, silence provides a pause, a moment to breathe, to think, to reflect. In that pause, hearts soften, minds clear, and the weight of anger begins to lift. Words spoken in anger may destroy, but silence allows time for forgiveness to grow. It opens the door for reconciliation, for apologies, and for love to return stronger than before. There is wisdom in knowing that not every thought must be spoken, not every feeling must be voiced, and not every truth must be said in the heat of the moment. Silence teaches you to wait for the right time, the right place, and the right words. What you say in anger may cause harm, but what you say in calmness may heal. Silence in the moment of rage gives you the ability to later speak with kindness, with fairness, and with sincerity. Relationships are fragile trusts from Allah. They are gifts, and every gift must be protected. Silence is one of the greatest protections we can offer, because silence is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of love. It says, I care about you more than I care about winning this argument. It says, I vow you peace more than I vow you proving myself. It says, I trust Allah to guide this matter, and I will not let my tongue destroy what my heart holds dear. And so, silence is not just for yourself, it is for others. It is mercy for your spouse. It is kindness for your friend. It is respect for your parents. It is loyalty for your family. In choosing silence, you are protecting the people Allah has placed in your life. And in protecting them, you are protecting yourself from regret, from sin, and from broken bonds that weigh heavily on the soul. May Allah grant us the wisdom to remain silent in moments of anger, and the strength to protect the relationships He has blessed us with. Silence is a form of patience. It teaches discipline over the tongue, calmness over the ego, and hope over despair, reminding us that Allah rewards those who remain patient. Every one of us faces moments where words rise to our lips faster than our hearts can think. Anger, frustration, pain, and pride often push us to speak in ways we later regret. But the believer learns that true patience is not only in waiting through trials, but also in controlling the tongue when it wants to cause harm. Silence in such moments becomes a powerful act of sabr, an act of worship that reflects trust in Allah and submission to His wisdom. When you remain silent, you discipline your tongue, which is one of the hardest parts of the body to control. The Prophet Muhammad taught us that the tongue is what leads most people into hellfire. A single sentence can destroy trust, ruin families, or wound hearts so deeply that years cannot heal them. Yet silence protects you from falling into these traps. It is patience in its purest form, patience over yourself, patience over your ego, patience over the temptation to respond in haste. Every time you silence your tongue for the sake of Allah, you are training your soul to obey Him rather than your desires. Patience is not just about waiting, it is about how you wait, how you endure, how you respond when tested. Silence in the face of provocation shows a heart that is calm, not because it is weak, but because it knows that Allah is watching. Your silence declares that you do not need to defend your ego, because Allah is the best of defenders. Your silence says that you will not let anger guide you, because patience is more beloved to Allah. The Quran reminds us that Allah is with those who are patient, and when you choose silence, you are placing yourself among those people. In silence, there is calmness over the ego. The ego constantly pushes us to answer back, to prove ourselves, to have the last word. But every time you hold your tongue, you are humbling your ego before Allah. You are saying, my honor does not come from winning an argument. My honor comes from my obedience to my Lord. That is a level of patience that elevates the believer. The world may see silence as defeat, but in the sight of Allah, it is victory, because the one who can control his tongue has already conquered his soul. Silence also builds hope over despair. When life tests you, when people speak against you, when lies are spread about you, it is easy to despair and want to defend yourself with words. But silence allows you to place your hope in Allah's justice instead of your own. It is patience that says, I will let Allah handle this matter. He knows the truth and He is the most just. That kind of silence brings peace to the heart, because you no longer carry the burden of proving yourself to people. You hand over your affairs to Allah, and in that surrender, your hope grows stronger. Silence is not weakness, it is resilience. When you are silent, you are holding back storms within you, storms that could destroy relationships, storms that could stain your soul. That kind of silence requires immense patience, and Allah promises that those who are patient will be rewarded without measure. Every word you do not say in anger, every argument you walk away from, every insult you do not return, is a silent act of worship that will be heavy on your scale on the day of judgment. Patience through silence is also a shield for your faith. The more you refrain from unnecessary words, the more space you create in your heart for remembrance of Allah. Silence allows your tongue to be free for dhikr instead of gossip, for Qur'an instead of argument, for dua instead of vain talk. It is patience that turns the absence of speech into the presence of worship. It teaches you that your words are precious, that they should only be used for goodness, for kindness, for truth. Silence brings calmness not only to your heart, but to those around you. In moments of conflict, one person's silence can prevent the fire of anger from spreading. It is patience that stops a small disagreement from turning into a lifelong wound. Silence can save marriages, protect families, and preserve friendships, all because one person had the patience to hold back their words. The Prophet told us that the believer is the one from whose tongue and hands others are safe. Silence ensures that safety. It makes you a source of peace rather than harm. Every time you remain silent, when your ego is tested, when your anger is provoked, or when your heart feels pain, you are proving your trust in Allah. You are showing that you believe His reward is greater than the temporary satisfaction of answering back. You are demonstrating that your patience is for Him, not for people, and Allah never wastes the patience of His servants. So silence is not just about withholding words. It is about teaching your soul to rely on Allah instead of your tongue. It is about showing discipline over your desires, calmness over your pride, and hope in Allah's promise. Silence is patience, and patience is the key to Jannah. May Allah grant us tongues that remain silent when silence is best, and voices that speak only truth, kindness, and remembrance. Silence heals the heart. When you avoid unnecessary speech, you create space for dhikr, for Qur'an, and for the whispers of faith that heal wounds inside you. The heart is fragile, easily wounded by words, easily distracted by noise, easily burdened by the weight of arguments, gossip, and vain talk. Too often, we allow our tongues to run freely, and in doing so, we fill our hearts with heaviness. But when we embrace silence, we protect the heart from these stains, and we open it to the light of Allah's remembrance. Every word that leaves the tongue has an effect. Words of truth bring peace, but words of falsehood bring restlessness. Words of kindness soften the heart, but words of anger harden it. The more we engage in unnecessary speech, the more our hearts are pulled away from Allah. But silence frees the heart. It allows the wounds created by careless words, both those we speak and those spoken to us, to begin to heal. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Part of a person's being a good Muslim is leaving alone that which does not concern him." Silence is not just about holding back from harm, it is about choosing what benefits the soul. By remaining silent when there is nothing good to say, you are giving your heart the gift of rest. The heart longs for dhikr, for the remembrance of Allah. But when the tongue is constantly busy with useless talk, there is little room left for dhikr. Silence creates that space. When you stop wasting words, you find yourself naturally remembering Allah more. Subhanallah flows from your lips, Alhamdulillah becomes your comfort, Allahu Akbar strengthens your spirit, and La ilaha illallah fills your heart with peace. Each word of remembrance becomes a healing balm, soothing wounds of anxiety, sadness, and regret. Silence is not an emptiness, it is an opening for the words that truly matter, the words that bring you closer to Allah. In silence, the Qur'an enters the heart with greater power. When the world is filled with noise and arguments, it is hard to reflect deeply on the verses of Allah. But silence allows you to recite with focus, to listen with humility, and to ponder with sincerity. The Qur'an was revealed as guidance and healing for the hearts, and it takes silence to absorb that healing. A quiet tongue leads to a reflective heart, and a reflective heart becomes soft and receptive to the words of Allah. The whispers of faith also become clearer in silence. The believer's heart is always being pulled between two forces, the whispers of Shaitan and the whispers of faith. In a life filled with noise and constant speech, the whispers of Shaitan grow louder, drowning out the voice of truth within. But in silence, the whispers of faith grow stronger. You begin to hear your conscience guiding you, reminding you of right and wrong, calling you back to prayer, to patience, to trust in Allah. That inner voice is a mercy from Allah, but it can only be heard when the noise of unnecessary speech is silenced. Silence also allows you to face your own heart. Many people fear silence because it forces them to reflect on themselves, on their weaknesses, on their mistakes, on their wounds. But true healing only comes when you allow silence to reveal these wounds, so that you may turn to Allah for healing. In silence, you realize that no amount of words can fill the emptiness inside. Only Allah can, and so silence becomes the bridge that leads you from distraction to reflection, from pain to prayer, from brokenness to healing. Silence is also an act of protection. Every unnecessary word you avoid is one less burden on your heart. How many times have you regretted speaking, but rarely do you regret remaining silent? Regret is a wound to the heart, but silence saves you from that wound. By choosing silence, you protect your heart from the pain of remorse, and you preserve its purity for what truly matters. The world today is filled with constant voices, endless debates, endless chatter. People are rarely silent, but a heart drowned in noise cannot find peace. It is in silence that the believer finds tranquility, because silence connects you to Allah in ways words often cannot. In the stillness of silence, you begin to feel the presence of Allah in your life more deeply. You realize that He hears your unspoken thoughts, He knows your unspoken prayers, He sees the tears you do not express. That awareness heals the heart because it reminds you that you are never alone. Silence is also linked with patience, and patience is a medicine for the heart. By being silent in moments of anger, you prevent your heart from being filled with fire. By being silent in moments of temptation, you protect your heart from darkness. By being silent in moments of sadness, you allow your heart to rest in Allah's plan. Every act of silence is an act of sabr, and sabr brings the reward of healing, strength, and closeness to Allah. Healing comes not just from avoiding harm, but from filling the heart with light. Silence helps you avoid harmful words, and it gives room for the light of Allah's mercy to enter. It turns your attention away from the noise of this world and directs it toward the peace of the hereafter. It teaches you that not every pain must be expressed in words, because some wounds can only be healed by the one who created your heart. When you embrace silence, you learn that it is not a lack of communication, but a deeper form of communication with Allah. Your silence becomes a prayer, your silence becomes a surrender, your silence becomes a statement of trust, and in that trust lies healing for the heart. May Allah grant us tongues that remain silent when silence heals, and hearts that find peace in His remembrance. Every word that leaves our tongue is recorded, every sentence is written, and nothing escapes the knowledge of Allah. The Prophet reminded us that a person may utter a single word without thinking, and because of it, he falls into the depths of the fire. And another may speak a word pleasing to Allah without even realizing its weight, and it raises him to the highest ranks. This shows us that our speech is never small, never light, never without consequence. When we remain silent, we are not only saving ourselves from the dangers of harmful words, but we are also securing our hereafter. Silence becomes an act of worship, a shield from sin, and a source of salvation. Imagine standing on the day of judgment, when the books of deeds are opened and every utterance is displayed. The Qur'an tells us, not a word does he utter, except that there is an observer ready to record it. Think of how many times anger pushed us to say words we regretted, how often impatience caused us to speak harshly, or how heedlessness led us into gossip. On that day, those words will stand against us, weighing down our scales. Yet, if we train ourselves in silence today, if we learn to hold the tongue in moments of weakness, those pages will be lighter, purer, and filled instead with remembrance of Allah. Silence is not emptiness. It is a space we choose not to fill with sin. Each time you resist responding with bitterness, each time you hold back from mocking or gossiping, you are building for yourself a fortress in the hereafter. What many do not realize is that silence is itself a form of action, because refraining from harm is counted as obedience. The angels record not only the words we say, but also the moments when we choose silence over sin. Think of relationships broken because of a single harsh word. Think of families divided by gossip. Think of hearts wounded by careless speech. The damage may last a lifetime, but on the day of judgment, the damage is eternal. And so, silence today becomes safety tomorrow. When you are tempted to argue, remind yourself that winning in this world is nothing compared to losing in the next. When you are tempted to expose someone's flaws, remind yourself that concealing their faults may be the very reason Allah conceals yours. Our Prophet gave us a timeless instruction. Whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him speak good or remain silent. Notice the link. Belief in the last day is tied to guarding the tongue. Why? Because our hereafter is directly shaped by our words. Every insult, every lie, every vain word becomes a seed that grows into regret in the afterlife. And every word of dhikr, every Qur'an recited, every silence chosen for Allah's sake, becomes a seed of light that blossoms into reward. Silence is not about weakness, it is about strength. It is the strength of disciplining the ego, the strength of valuing your hereafter over your pride. It is easy to speak, but difficult to remain quiet when provoked. That is why silence carries such weight. It is patience in practice, humility in action, and wisdom in restraint. When we train ourselves to guard the tongue, we are in fact guarding the heart. The tongue is the mirror of the soul, and if it is pure, the heart is pure. A person who constantly engages in useless talk finds their heart hardened, distracted from Allah, and consumed with worldly noise. But a person who practices silence, who avoids unnecessary speech, creates room for remembrance. Their silence turns into dhikr, their pauses become reflection, and their heart softens in the presence of Allah. On the day of judgment, imagine standing before your Lord and the angels present your record. You see pages filled not with arguments, not with gossip, not with wasted words, but with moments of silence in which your tongue was withheld from sin. Those pages will testify for you, not against you. They will say, "This servant chose silence when they could have harmed. They chose patience when they could have spoken in anger. They chose Allah's reward over the fleeting satisfaction of words." Every day we are faced with choices: speak or stay silent, argue or forgive, expose or conceal, mock or remain quiet. Each choice is a step toward Jannah or a step away from it. If we understood the weight of words, we would tremble before speaking. Silence, then, is not just wisdom in this world, it is salvation in the next. So remember, silence today is not a loss, it is an investment. It is the key to peace in this world and the shield from regret in the next. Your tongue can either lead you to Jannah or drag you to Jahannam. Choose silence and let it be your companion on the journey to Allah. Silence today is salvation tomorrow. May Allah grant us tongues that remember Him, hearts that stay soft with faith, and silence that saves us from regret. Protect your words, and you will protect your soul. Until we meet again, keep me in your du'as, and may Allah bless you and your families with peace, patience, and guidance. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.